that tends to be because of a feeling. So when there are these tasks that suddenly get hard, right, are suddenly difficult, that's when we need different tactics. It's easy to do the stuff we enjoy. It's hard to do the stuff that we don't enjoy.
So what would you advise me to do then? In the case of DJing, I've got, potentially 2 shows this summer in Europe.
So I would start with your values. And that's part of step 2 of making time for traction. When people ask, how do I make a time box calendar? Where do you start? You start with your values. So what are values? The definition of values in my book is attributes of the person you want to become. Attributes of the person you want to become. So then what you do is you put your values in terms of these 3 life domains. I look at them as concentric circles. At the center of these 3 life domains is you. If you can't take care of yourself, can't take care of others, you can't make the world a better place. So when it comes to that life domain, you look at the things that you want to do for yourself, the time you want to spend to become the person you want to become. And you look at your calendar, you look at this blank calendar for the next 7 days, and you ask yourself, how would the person I want to become spend their time? And you put that time in your schedule. So time for rest, time for reading, time for video games, doesn't matter. Put that time in your schedule. The next life domain is your relationships. Part of the reason we have this loneliness epidemic in the industrialized world is that we don't have the time scheduled for our relationships like we used to. As the industrialized world became more secular, the church, the synagogue, the mosque, we don't go to these social interactions where we care for others and others care for us. We don't have that scheduled in our day anymore. And I'm not saying it, I'm pretty secular myself. I'm not saying we have to do that, but that is what we have lost because we don't have these regular, what used to be religious institutions. It doesn't have to be Robert Putnam was talking about this in the 1990s in his book, Bowling Alone. We don't have these regular social interactions like previous generations did. And we need to bring those back. I actually think social media overuse is a symptom, not the cause of the fact that we don't see people regularly. So you need to put in your calendar time for those relationships, your friends, your family, your kids, your significant others. You have to put that time in your schedule. Don't give them whatever scraps of time are left over. Put it in your schedule. Then finally, your work domain. This is where most people start. It's actually, I think, where we need to end. Work comes in 2 flavors. We have what's called reactive work and we have reflective work. Reactive work is how distracted people spend their days. Reacting to messages, reacting to notifications, reacting to requests, all day long reacting to things. And that's fine. Everybody's job will involve some amount of reactive work. But if you're not scheduling time for reflective work, you're going to run real fast in the wrong direction. You have to put time in your schedule to think. If you want to do work that is creative, work that requires focus, you have to schedule that time. It's okay if it's only 15, 20 minutes, but that time has to be on your schedule. So to answer your question of, okay, well, what do I do with this passion I have around DJing? It's a factor of how much time you want to put into it based on your values, based on the kind of person you want to become. So what would the Stephen you want to become? How much time, first and foremost, not outcome. I think that's the problem with a lot of goal planning. This is one of my beef with to-do lists. To-do lists are a series of outputs. I want to do this, I want to do this, I want to do this, and it has no constraint. A to-do list has no constraints. You can always add more. And so what happens? You come home with your to-do list of a million things after you've worked really hard all day long, and most of those things you have not crossed off. So what does that say to your self-image if every day you come home and all these things still haven't been done after a long day of work, and you haven't done what you said you would do? Loser. So day after day, week after week, month after month, year after year, you're reinforcing this self-image of someone who doesn't do what they said they're going to do, right? As opposed to a time box calendar has constraints. Same 24 hours in the day, right? And I don't care if you're Jeff Bezos or Elon Musk, you can always make more money. You can't make more time. And I think it's exactly flipped. Most people are cheap with their money and generous with their time. I think it should be the opposite, right? We should be cheap with our time and generous with our money because you can always make more money. You can always make more money. You cannot make more time. So a time box calendar forces you to work with constraints and decide based on your values how much time you can afford to spend on whatever you want to do, right? Because if you put in everything, you'll get nothing. You'll live in regret. Whereas if you say, look, I only have 4 hours a week for DJing endeavors, and here's where I'm going to put that in because I also want to spend time with my friends. I need to take care of myself. I need to take care of my business. So it's not based on outcome. It's based on input. right? So if you went to a baker, okay, and you said, hey, my kid has a birthday party. I need 2 dozen cupcakes. Baker's going to say, okay, I need flour, I need sugar, I need butter, I need all these inputs. I need these ingredients to make the output. But when it comes to knowledge work, we only think about the output. But what's our input? Our input is just 2 things, time and attention. Those are our ingredients. That's it. So you can't just think about the output. You can't just think about the cupcakes. You have to think about the input. The input is time and attention. And that, just like ingredients for a cupcake, has to be budgeted for. You have to plan that ahead or it's not going to work out.
So you were my inspiration for starting time blocking, I've called it, but time boxing.
Yeah, same thing.
And it's really, really been helpful, specifically in times when I'm not in work. So when I go away to write, for example, and I don't have meetings that are like, I have to do, or that pop in and out, etc. It's been super helpful. And also, I'll be honest, during the pandemic was when I really, to the point that I started developing a time blocking app with a friend of mine.
Oh yeah?
Because it was that useful for me. The pandemic had happened. We weren't meeting anybody. We weren't having sort of in-person meetings. So I had long days, but that felt a bit more empty than usual. So to sort of get a grasp on them and stop them being whittled away by distraction, I started time blocking and it was amazing for me. I guess one of the questions I want to ask before I get onto this is, in my personal relationship with my girlfriend, we've been together for about 4 years, pretty much ever since we first met, me and you first met. It's the first time I've lived with someone. She's moved in, we live together. And one of the things that a busy lifestyle can do, and I think you've described it as well, is it can have an impact on your sex life and relationship, dates, date night, etc. So I proposed the idea to her because of you. I said, we should schedule these things because I schedule everything else that's important to me.
Yeah. So
we should schedule our date night and those kinds of things.
Right.
Because that's equally important to me too. And she was a bit resistant to the idea at first because in her rebuttal was that it kind of takes the spontaneity and the spice and the
date night or scheduling sex. Cause some people schedule sex. I don't go that far.
I wouldn't go as far as scheduling sex, but it's really like spending time together and doing stuff. She was resistant to scheduling it because she felt that it took
But so there's an interesting concept. Okay. So when I was, my wife and I met at university and we met in an economics class. And in this class, they discussed this concept of a residual beneficiary. A residual beneficiary in business is the person, the chump, who receives whatever's left over when a business is sold. So first debt holders get their share, then the equity holders. Whatever's left over, the residual beneficiary gets, right? And after we'd been married for a few years, she sat me down and she says, Nir, you have turned me into the residual beneficiary.
Wow, what a thing to say.
Right? I get whatever scraps of time are left over. If you and your relationship, by the way, my book is not for people who have a perfect life, okay? I don't have a perfect life. I still get distracted from time to time. The difference is between a distractible person and an indistractable person is that a distractible person keeps getting distracted by the same things. Paulo Coelho has a wonderful quote. He said, a mistake repeated more than once is a decision. Such a good quote. A mistake repeated more than once is a decision. Good, right? So distractible people keep getting distracted by the same things again and again. How many times are we going to complain about TikTok and Facebook before we say, enough, I'm going to do something about it, right? Indistractable people say, okay, I got distracted once, but you're not going to let it happen again and again. So I'm going to take steps today to prevent getting distracted tomorrow. So when my wife and I found that our schedules were getting busier and busier, and we weren't making the proper time for each other, it wasn't happening spontaneously, then we had to go to plan B. And plan B, for a long time, there was no plan. It was just, well, it's not happening. The problem is people interpret the fact, maybe you felt this, that not making time, not being spontaneous means that we don't love each other as much. And I think that's a huge mistake. That's not it at all. It certainly wasn't in my relationship with my wife. I still loved her just as much. Just that I was busy, honey, and there's this big thing happening here, and I need to do this, and I need to do that. And the time would slip away, and we wouldn't spend time together. That's no indication that I don't love my wife. It's an indication that I didn't know how to prioritize my wife properly. So I stopped making her the residual beneficiary. If we have extra spontaneous time, sometimes a meeting is canceled. Great, let's do something together. But at minimum, we know on Friday nights, that's our date night.
Quick one. As you guys know,
we're lucky enough to have Blue Jeans by Verizon as a sponsor of this podcast. And for anyone that doesn't know, Blue Jeans is an online video conferencing tool that allows you to have slick, fast, high quality online meetings without all the glitches you might normally find with online meeting tools. And they have a new feature called Blue Jeans Basic. Blue Jeans Basic is essentially a free version of their top quality video conferencing tool. That means you get an immersive video experience that is super high quality, super easy, and super basically zero fuss. Apart from all the incredible features like zero time limits on meeting calls, it also comes with high fidelity audio and video, including Dolby Voice, which is incredibly useful. They also have enterprise grade security so you can collaborate with confidence. It's so smooth that it's quite literally changing the game for myself and my team without compromising on quality. To find out more, all you have to do is search bluejeans.com and let me know how you get on.
I'm in an interesting phase at the moment in my fitness and health journey because I'm training for Soccer Aid, which takes place in June at Old Trafford. I've been training a lot differently, but regardless of how I train, regardless of whether I'm doing strength training or cardiovascular training, which is predominantly what I'm doing now, I need this, which is Huel's nutritionally complete protein product. The crazy thing about this, which I almost find hard to achieve, is that it's 20 grams of protein. You get 26 vitamins and minerals, and it's only roughly about 100 calories, 105 calories. And it tastes like a dream. The salted caramel one is my favorite. I've got the second favorite option of mine in front of me, which is vanilla fudge. Both of them taste amazing. A little bit of ice in it. It tastes like a fantastic, healthy milkshake. Give it a try. If you haven't already, this is actually, next to RTD, this is my favorite product from Huel. Try it. Love it. #1 protein powder. When we do fall out of quote unquote balance in some way, when we maybe don't have our priorities in order, or at least this is what people think. People diagnose themselves with this thing called burnout. And I've been quite intentional with my words there because I have my own opinions on burnout. I don't really think burnout is what people think it is. People think of burnout as basically doing too much work. I think most people, 90% of people would say that burnout is when you do too much work. It's a big topic in conversation now, this subject matter of burnout. What do you think burnout is?
So there's some amazing research done by two British researchers by the name of Stansfield and Candy, and they concluded that a toxic work environment is not the work you do, it's the type of work you do.